All right. Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praise and glory to YAHAWAH, BAHASHAM, YAHAWASHI, BAHASHAM, YAHAWASHI. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of great millstone that taught us this truth. And salutations to the hopeful elect that's around the four corners of the globe. And the elect begins with the 144,000. YAHAWAH, who the world ignorantly calls God and Jehovah. BAHASHAM is in the name. YAHAWASHI, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. The Rakakwa doctrine is the Holy Spirit. I'm the brother YAHAWAH with the GM at Chicago camp out here in Chicago. Come back at you brothers and sisters at a household of faith of the hopeful right select with another lesson. And Lord, and I hope this lesson be edifying through the spirit and power of YAHAWASHI YAHAWASHI. Once again, I hope this lesson is edifying. I'm gonna just simply entitle this lesson what the true day of the Lord is really going to be like, man. Because it's this notion out there, especially with the Christian church teaches of what these people actually believe. That who they believe to be, Jesus Christ is coming back to send love, peace, prosperity, and things of that nature, man. Love, hugs, high fives, and things like that. Hey, but the true, power of the Bible, Yahweh's going to send his son, YAHAWASHI, back ultimately to destroy and ultimately to kill, man, and to ultimately deliver his elect. But it's going to be a lot of death and destruction, upon YAHAWASHI's second return, man. Up to what we see right now, up until where YAHAWASHI returns, man. Because the Lord is spilling the plagues upon the earth, upon the people right now. But when YAHAWASHI literally makes his second return, man, hey, it's going to be nothing but death and destruction, man. The only ones that's going to be delivered is the elect of the nation of Israel, of you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, and speckled birds. But just to start it off, this is the book of Amos 5 and verse 18. It says, woe unto you. Woe means destruction. It says, woe unto you that desire the day of the Lord. And right, you see these Christians, man, that's waiting the return of, who they perceive to be, JC. Because when they picture JC, they picture a so-called white man, who was painted, who was a guy named Cedric Beaujeu. That's who the people look at, when they say, or when they think of the Son of God, they think of JC. They think of Cedric Beaujeu. They think of a white image, right? It says, woe unto you that desire the day of the Lord. So what end is it for you? The day of the Lord is darkness and not light, right? Because the true power of the Bible, Yahweh is going to send his son, YAHAWASHI, back to ultimately to destroy and ultimately to kill, man, to unalive people. It says the day of the Lord is darkness and not light because, like I said, it's the notion out there. A lot of people thinking the sun, if Yahweh, is coming back to ultimately send peace and prosperity, man. But that's not the case, man. It says the day of the Lord is darkness and not light. It says as if a man did flee from a lion and a bear met him. It says or went into the house and leaned his hand on the wall and a serpent bit him. Ultimately, you can't just escape from the destruction, man. You think you're getting away from something, but you're not actually getting away from anything, man. It says, verse 20, here's the point. It says, shall not the day of the Lord be darkness and not light, even very dark and no brightness in it? Because why? Because there's going to be a lot of killing and bloodshed happening during this time, man. Even upon the arrival of YAHAWASHI, man, there's going to be a lot of killing and bloodshed, man. How much more so when YAHAWASHI makes his second return, crack the skies, and ultimately do damage to Esau, Edom, these nations, and 2/3 of his own people, man. But let's continue. Let's get that Zephaniah. Just to back up that point, man. Because what you think, even talking about these movies, right? Where you think they even get the term Judgment Day from, man? Because the Lord is coming back to unalive a lot of people. This is the book of Zephaniah 1 and 14. It says, the great day of the Lord is near. It is near and hasteth greatly, even the voice of the day of the Lord. The mighty man shall cry there bitterly. It says that the day is a day of wrath, a day of trouble. It says in distress, a day of wasteness and desolation, a day of darkness and gloominess, a day of clouds and thick darkness. Right, it's going to be a very gloomy day, man, because you got to understand, on the return of the second return of YAHAWASHI, man, hey, what's going to happen on that day, man? Hey, America's going to be totally destroyed, resulting in millions, even billions of people, people to be unalive, man. You're going to have what? YAHAWASHI literally killing people, man. It's going to be a lot happening on that day, man. The day of the Lord is going to be a very, very dark day, man. Millions upon millions of casualties are going to perish, man. Because the Lord is what? Going to totally destroy America with those thermonuclear missiles. Because it mentions in Isaiah 66, the Lord coming with fire by his chariots. you know, to deliver, you know, let's actually just grab it real quick, because I don't want to butcher it, because this is exactly what the Lord is going to do, man. This is the book of Isaiah 66. In verse 15, it says, "For behold, the Lord will come with fire, and with his chariots, what the world will ignorantly call UFOs, right? Like a whirlwind, to render his anger with fury and his rebuke with flames of fire." So where's the hugs and kisses in that, man? You know, because that's what the Christian church, and that's what so-called believers of this of who they call JC, what they believe in, man. It says, "To render his anger with fury and his rebuke with flames of fire. For by fire and by his sword will the Lord plead with all flesh, and the slain of the Lord shall be many." Right, the slain of the Lord shall be many, man. The Lord is going to unalive a lot of people upon his second return, man. You know? And it's happening right now, man. And Yahawashi hasn't, you know, returned yet. So how much more so when Yahawashi makes his second return, man? You know, the Lord is going to unalive a lot of people. Let's read that verse 16 again. It says, "For by fire and by his sword will the Lord plead with all flesh, and the slain of the Lord shall be many." Because we got to understand, man. You know, Yahawah says Yahawah is a man of war. Hey, his son is also, man. You know, his son is coming back. Yahawashi is coming back to kill and unalive a lot of people, man. Because it talks about, what's that, Revelations, the 1st chapter? Ultimately, all eyes shall see him, even those that pierced him, man. Hey, because the Lord is coming back to get his revenge, man, upon those that pierced him, and 2/3 of his own people that ultimately what came against him, man. You know? So the Lord is coming back to get his revenge, and the Lord is coming back to what? To lay a lot of shit down. Let's get verse 17 also. It says, "They that sanctify themselves and purify themselves in the gardens behind one tree, and the midst eating swine's flesh, and the abomination and the mouth shall be consumed together, saith the Lord." Right? You know, the wicked of our people that's, you know, that's eating abominations, that's doing abominations. Hey, the Lord is coming back to ultimately unalive you too, man. You know? Because you got to understand, man. Hey, if you're not a part of the elect, man, hey, you're going to be a casualty by BAHASHAM, man. You know? Let's get these other scriptures. This is the book of Matthew 10:34, quick and straight to the point. Matthew 10:34, it says, "Think not that I am come to send peace on earth. I came not to send peace, but a sword." Right, the Lord is coming back to send destruction, man. Because just look at the state of the earth right now, man. Hey, Esau, Edom, you know, ultimately he's in rulership. Hey, Job 9:24, the earth is given into the hands of the wicked, man. Everything is out of course, man. Hey, the people has lost their damn minds, man. Doing all type of abominations and things like that. Because you got to understand, even going back to what? During the times of Noah, right? When ultimately wickedness increased upon the earth, what did Yahawah ultimately do, man? He ultimately sent in a flood, man. When things got out of hand, he just ultimately sent in a flood, killed everybody, and only what? Saved 8 souls, man. You had what? Noah, Shem, Ham, Japheth, and their wives, man. And the same thing is going to happen. The Lord is going to send that fire. The Lord, Yahawah, is going to send his son Yahawashi back. Ultimately what? You know, hey, the second death, ultimately destroy America. Ultimately what? You know, Yahawashi is going to make his second return, unalive people. His people, that's not with the program. You know, 2/3 of his people is going to be eradicated. Hey, what's that? Zechariah, the 13th chapter, 2 parts therein shall be cut off and die, but the third shall be left therein. Hey, this is what is going to entail on the day of the Lord, man. You know, this is what we're going to witness on the day of the Lord, man. You know, Lord will let you know, we be a part of the elect, but this is what's going to happen on the day of the Lord, man. The Lord is not sending peace. The Lord is sending destruction, because just look at the state of the earth right now, man. You know, these people lost their minds. You know, these people, you know, are proud to do evil. You know, these people, you know, talking about our people, you know, refuse to turn to Yahawashi. You know, so that's why the Lord is what, you know, sending destruction to this place, man. You know, but let's continue. This is the book of Jeremiah 25, and let's see. Yep, Jeremiah 25 and verse 30. It says, "Therefore prophesy thou against them all these words, and say unto them, Yahawah shall roar from on high, and utter his voice from his holy habitation. He shall mightily roar upon his habitation. He shall give a shout as they that tread the grapes against all the inhabitations of the earth. A noise shall come even to the ends of the earth. It says, for Yahweh have a controversy with the nations. He will plead with all flesh. Right, because what? The Lord is coming back to what? To judge these people, man. You know? It says, he will give them that are wicked to the sword, saith Yahweh. Right, where's the love and where's the hugs and high fives and that? You know, Christians or people that so-called believe, you know, that call on JC and things like that, they don't understand the true nature of YAHAWASHI, man. They don't know what the, you know, what the true, what the day of the Lord is truly going to entail, man. You know, they basically go off their own understanding of what they think and what they feel, man. Because ultimately, when they picture the second return of the son of Yahweh, who do they picture? They picture a so-called white man, you know, that's going to come back down, looking effeminate, you know, you know how Esau Edom depict, you know, the angels as so-called white baby angels, you know. That's what these people is going to think when the day of the Lord happens, man. That the Lord is coming down looking effeminate. You know, he's going to get hugs and kisses to everybody. He's going to accept, you know, you as you is, man. The way, the lifestyle that you living, man. But that's not the case, man. The Lord is coming back to kill, man. And YAHAWASHI is a so-called black man. It says, verse 32. I'm going to read verse 31 again. Say, no, it shall come to the ends of the earth. For Yahweh has a controversy with the nations. He will plead with all flesh. He will give them that are wicked to the sword, saith Yahweh. Thus saith Yahweh of hosts, behold, evil shall go forth from nation to nation, and a great whirlwind shall be raised up from the coast of the earth. And the slain of Yahweh shall be at that day from one end of the earth, even to the other end of the earth. They shall not be lamented, neither gathered nor buried. They shall be dung upon the ground. Right? Because what? You're going to have what? Mainly here in America, but other parts of the earth also, man. Hey, just bodies just laid out, man. You know? It's going to be a lot of death and a lot of destruction that's coming, man, upon the day, the second return of YAHAWASHI, man. You know? And this is what the true day of the Lord is going to entail, man. You know? The Lord is coming back to do a lot of unaliving and a lot of killing, man. You know? But let's get this last scripture. Because he even talks about in Revelations, hey, the blood shall be up to the horse's bridle, man. That's a lot of blood that the Lord is going to spill. This is the book of Isaiah 42 and 13. It says, Yahweh, let me see if there's any, yep. Isaiah 42 and 12, it says, let them give glory unto Yahweh and declare his praise in the islands. Yahweh shall go forth as a mighty man. He shall stir up jealousy like a man of war. Right? Because, you know, YAHAWASHI is a man of war. You know, going back to what's that, Exodus? You know, Yahweh is a man of war. Yahweh is his name. He shall stir up jealousy like a man of war. He shall cry, yea, roar. He shall prevail against his enemies. I have long time holding my peace, right? Because the Lord holding his peace for the simple fact that what? You see the state of this world right now. The Lord has, you know, held his peace, man. You know, because what? The Lord is waiting for that tab to be, you know, ultimately met, man. You know, for the Lord to ultimately come down and to deliver that judgment, man. I have long time holding my peace. I have been still and refrained myself. Now will I cry like a travailing woman, and I will destroy and devour at once. And right, and that's YAHAWASHI, man. Yahweh's going to send his son YAHAWASHI back to do damage, man. You know, upon Esau Edom, his number one enemy. Hey, these other nations are 2/3 of his own people, man. Verse 15, it says, I will make waste mountains and hills and dry up all their herbs, and I will make their rivers islands, and I will dry up the pools. And how is that going to happen, man? By the way of that thermonuclear fire and the chariots from the laser beams. Or the laser beams from the chariots, Salakia. It says, yeah, that was pretty much the point. And this is what the day of the Lord is going to entail, man. You know, these Christian churches teaching, you know, when ultimately who they say is JC, man, he's going to come back, give hugs and kisses, you know, hugs, high fives and shit like that. But that's not what the scriptures say, man. You know, as I read in that Amos, hey, the day of the Lord is darkness and not light. You know, it's going to be a lot of killing and a lot of bloodshed, man. And this is what ultimately the day of the Lord is going to entail, man. So with that being said, I hope this lesson was edifying. I want to end out again by giving our praise and glory to Yahweh, BAHASHAM, YAHAWASHI, BAHASHAM, KAGORASH. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of great millstone that taught us the truth. And salutations to the hopeful elect that's around the four corners of the globe. Lord, I hope this lesson was edifying. Till next time, Kwam Yasharala, Shalom, and Abba, Babal.